Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help. And King of Floors, your vinyl, laminate, and engineered flooring superstore.
Just ahead of Dan Hamhuis, I said 16 NHL seasons, 7 with the Canucks. It was 6 with the Canucks. All of our guests today on Wednesday are sponsored by the O's marketing team at Royal LePage, the go-to source for all your Central Vancouver Island real estate needs. Find out more at wearerealestate.com. Dan Hamhuis, 16 NHL seasons, 6 with Vancouver. He was a Canuck 10 years ago this month when they played in the Stanley Cup Final against Boston. Dan retiring in 2020, infamously suffering the groin injury, the lower body injury in Game 1 in 2011 on a check delivered to Milan Lucic, as you just saw if you're watching our first segment. Dan joins us now. Dan, thanks so much for doing this. How are you, sir?
Doing really well. Thanks, guys.
Good. For people who don't know, what are you up to these days after retirement?
Well, living up in Smithers, place where I grew up, and we have always spent our summers in the off seasons. And this was a place we were considering for retirement. And so we've been here since August when we ended my season in Nashville in Edmonton when I was playing for Nashville, and we've been back in Smithers since then. It was a winter of being a dad and doing a lot of skiing, some Nordic and backcountry, downhill, and now transitioning into soccer coach dad and doing a lot of mountain biking up here in Smithers.
I don't think it gets much better than that. Hey, Dan, what stands out for you when you watch these NHL playoffs?
The fans. It's exciting to watch, to see fans in the buildings again. And now you're seeing them in the Canadian, in Montreal they had fans, and see the excitement of full buildings again down in the U.S. And I think the playoff format that they've adopted for this season is it's kind of exciting to see some of these matchups that you don't usually see, and some of the matchups you're going to see going forward with Montreal and Vegas or Colorado's conference final, I guess you could call it. It's neat to see. It's been some great hockey.
Dan, what comes to mind 10 years ago this month? What comes to mind when you think of comes to mind first when you think of the 2011 Stanley Cup Final?
You know what? A lot of fond memories, and certainly outweighs the sting of not winning in Game 7 against Boston. But that season, it was certainly a highlight of my career this past year, especially back in the fall when retirement was fresh. I did a few interviews with different media outlets, and one common question was, what are some of the highlights of your career? And that 2010-11 season is certainly a top 3 for me. Just the whole season of how that went, the guys, and the amount of winning we did, the playoff run, how the city of Vancouver came together was a highlight for me.
Do you ever think what might have been had you not been injured in Game 1?
Yep. Spent a lot of time wondering and thinking, but not sitting on that too long. I mean, you always wonder what if, but, that was the situation, and you can't change it, and we had to find ways to adapt. And, I thought our guys did a pretty good job, but, it's a huge part of playoff success is staying healthy. And you look at a lot of the teams that win, it's their core group is healthy, and unfortunately that led to, a substitution or, subbing Aaron Roman, which he did a fantastic job of taking that spot. Him and Kevin partnered up really well. But I guess the unfortunate part was then he went out the 2 games later with that hit on Horton. And then that really shuffled things around on the back end. We also had some key injuries on the front end on our forward group that changed guys' roles on the team. The playoffs, you can see it with the Montreal Canadiens this year. There's lines that have developed this bit of magic and chemistry, and that's one of the things that gets you success in the playoffs, is finding that magic and chemistry amongst your line mates throughout the team. And when you have injuries, those things change, and that may have affected us in 2011.
How tough is it to watch after your injury?
It's way tougher watching hockey than playing in it. Just when you get into those high pressure situations, when there's nothing you can do, you just sit on the sidelines and you're just a bundle of nerves watching and hopeful, anxious, stressed, the whole bit. When you're playing, when I played, I had this relaxed calm of just being in the zone and playing and contributing, and it's certainly easier being a player than a bystander.
Hey, Dan, Jeff Tambellini, I'll never forget the quote. Probably 6 guys were shot up in Game 7, so many injuries, so many hurt. Talking to former NHL players, the one thing they always said, the NHL playoffs, and nothing to take away from any other sport, Dan, but the NHL playoffs are such a grind. They're so tough. It's one of the hardest things. Would you agree with that?
I would say so. I mean, just hockey in general, the physicality of the sport, the speed of it and the demands, and then you consider the challenges of travel that, we in particular had to deal with that year with series in Chicago and Nashville and Boston. Even San Jose was pretty far. So a lot of travel. It's exhausting. Late nights, lack of sleep, injuries. It's tough playing every second night. It's a real grind, and sometimes it is that team that can get through that as healthy as can be that has the best chance to win.
Dan, that 211 team, so many guys have gone into coaching and management. You talked about what you're doing after retirement. The Sedin twins may join the Canucks front office. Have you heard of that, Dan? And what kind of job do you think they could do if they land in Vancouver?
Well, I think they'd be really great at whatever they put themselves into. They're just great humans, great people, and that's usually the best skill to start with in any job. And you take their hockey IQ. I think they'd be particularly good at running the coffee machine in the dressing room for the guys. They had a knack for drinking a ton of coffee and enjoying good cups of coffee. They could do it anything. They could, from top to bottom of that organization, they would be an asset to everyone involved with, like I said, their personalities, their skill sets, their eye for the game, how they could relate to players. I'm happy to hear for them that they're getting involved with that. It's great for the Canucks organization that they're expressing interest.
Hey, Dan, you're one of the owners of the Prince George Cougars. A lot of pressure on kids these days, Dan. Parents are spending a lot of money, 50, 60 grand a year in some cases, to try and make it. It's a tough racket. You did not go in the Western Hockey League Bantam draft, and yet the Cougars they listed you, I think, a year after or that year out of Bantam. Talk about not going in the Bantam draft, and then 2 or 3 years later, you're the 12th overall pick in the NHL draft.
That was a crazy time of development. I had a steep development curve there in those years of my life from playing single A hockey in Smithers, and I had an injury. I broke my leg just before the BC Winter Games, which was a big showcase, especially for kids in northern BC, small towns. Not a lot of scouts would come watch us. We were single A, but that was the opportunity, and I missed it. From that injury, went to Prince George the year after, or the next season, and had a good tournament. The Cougars put me on their list. Really was not expecting to make it, but I think maybe the lack of expectations and pressure. I just went in there kind of eyes wide open, not thinking about too much, just staying in the moment and playing, and managed to scratch my way on into the roster, and had a decent first year. Nothing crazy, but played in most of the games, limited role, limited number of points, and it was the next year I really gained some confidence and kind of believed I belonged, and that's where things kind of took off for me, and that confidence continued to build. And with the late birth year too, birth date, I got an extra year. I had 3 years of playing in the WHL and a year of World Juniors before being drafted. So, it was a big jump. But my coach there, Ed Dempsey, he believed in me. He wanted it to work for me. I think he had a soft spot for a northern BC small town guy playing on a northern BC WHL team, and I liked his coaching style. He was old school, which was simple. You work hard, and he likes you. You're competitive. He likes you, and when he likes you, he rewards you with more ice time. And that was really inspiring for me. I craved and wanted that ice time, and did what I could to get it. And, it allowed for my role to expand on that team when I was a younger player in junior. And then it allowed my skill set to develop and my game to develop good enough to get drafted by Nashville.
And 16 NHL seasons. You mentioned 2011 was top 3 on your career highlight list. You won gold in Sochi. What else is on that top 3 list, Dan?
Oh, on that top 3 list, I mean, I had a World Championship experience in Prague in 2015, which was also a real highlight for me, kind of on the international stage. Going 10-0 in that tournament, beating the Russians in the final after experiencing, I think, 4 silver medals to those guys. It was kind of sweet to finish off the international career with a win against them. I did it with Jason Spezza. Him and I were on the same team for most of those silver medal, I guess you could call them losses or wins, but silver medal losses. And so that was pretty special. I had my family over. My kids were old enough to experience it. They still remember that time, and to share that with them. And of course, the city of Prague. I mean, just the whole month there was a pretty special time.
Before I let you go, Dan, you mentioned you're in Smithers right now, where you grew up. You're back there. Northern BC, Northern Canada is such a mystery to most people. Both Rick and I lived up there. Rick was in Fort St. John. I was in Dawson Creek. What makes it special for you?
There's just so much to do, and it seems very backwards. You would think there's so much to do in a city, and there is, especially in a city like Vancouver. Our family, we really enjoy the outdoors, and there's just within 15 minutes of us, there's everything that you could want to do. With downhill skiing, cross country, and backcountry skiing in the winter, skating on our rink, and then in the summer, so many camping, hunting, fishing, mountain biking opportunities, and it's just right there. And so that's something that, the activities we really enjoy. But Smithers is a special community. It's a community that's close-knit. There's a great volunteer base to make soccer programs work, and all the sports programs for kids to work. And that's why we've really enjoyed it, and we've enjoyed being here.
Dan, thanks so much for this. All the best up there. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.